So, Abhinav, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate most Indian movies on average?
Let's see. It's an interesting question and quite a difficult one. In fact, I would probably go with five,
And
I
to
guess.
find out why, listen to the rest of the podcast. Yay!
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Hydra Deconstructed. Today, I'll be your host, Rahul Papulu, and we have our all-time favorite, Rosh.
Hi guys, this is the third time we're recording this, so let's hope this goes well.
Let's hope. And we have Abhinav.
Hey guys, I hope you're all doing well.
Yassine is on the podcast today.
Hello there.
Hello,
I did
man.
interrupt them a while.
It's fine. And now, we have a surprise for everyone. Our feature, Navi, was featured in, 2 episodes, I guess, and now she's a member of Hydra Deconstructed. So let's give it away to Navi.
Wow, that's so sweet. Thank you guys for having me. And hey
I-
everyone,
We're recording this for the third time, so I guess Navi is not surprised anymore.
He's
I
not.
am actually quite touched, like I feel so happy.
It's like you're trying too hard to sound happy so you don't sound happy.
Actually, if I could, on my video, you could see like my cheeks are up high there, so.
Oh, fair enough
Sure,
then.
sure, yeah.
So,
Right?
let's get down to business, shall we? What are we talking about today?
Well, we're not going to talk about education, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Let's have some entertainment.
Let's avoid all controversy, as much controversy as we can.
Yes.
So,
Right.
what topic can we pick?
And well, it's not. We already planned this out. It's Bollywood, you moron, or Indian cinema in general.
Okay, so Indian cinema it is. So we're going to talk about the Indian film industry there. Okay, where do we start from this?
Well-
Let's take it all the way back to
It-
the beginning.
Yeah, not all the way back. We don't want to
Yeah.
go to like the 1800s when they first introduced cinema to India. No, that'll be way too far back. But
Bit more, bit more earlier.
a bit.
I mean, afterwards.
Well, let's. Guys, listen to this. Just so we're clear, we were much better in the first recording, and then it got stopped halfway through. So we're running on steam right now, running on fumes. But like I said last time, what the hell did I say last time? Oh yeah, last time, since all of us are in our, except for Yassine, we're all in our early 20s. We thought we should talk about the general problems and the good things that movies had in the 90s and the 2000s. Because, well, I know that's what's in the script.
Good things. I like your optimism, Raj. To be honest, I grew up watching Bollywood films from the 2000s. I'm not really a fan of them, or at least I used to be a fan of them. I'm not really a fan of them anymore. I don't watch any of these films. I do watch some of the films from the South Indian industries of late because they've been done much better. But going back to Bollywood, and I think the 90s and 2000s were notorious for so many bad things in the Indian film industry, and that includes how unrealistic the films were and how they used to be shot in general. The overall general quality of the films were not really as good as we
Let me put
expected them
it to you this way to our non-Indian audience, just quite significant actually. Basically, in most movies where people do supernatural things, like punching people through cars or lifting, like destroying buildings and stuff, they usually establish the people. Yeah, no. Let me get there. Yeah, exactly. Most of the time in Western movies and Hollywood movies, they establish that these people have superhuman strength. They're superheroes or they're magic or whatever. In most Indian movies, for no reason, people who are meant to be normal characters have the ability to fight multiple big, strong, armed men at once with no training, no superpowers or anything. There's this random guy on the street can punch a guy so hard he flies 10 miles into the air and gets shot by lightning or something. It's insane. It's like a real life anime, but horrible.
I mean, things have gotten better recently, but then in the 90s and the 2000s, people were actually enjoying it quite
I
honestly.
mean, I guess back then it was kind of a trend where where people are represented as superheroes. So when they punch someone, they have to fly at least 50 meters.
Yeah, I think it was more about mindless action. People did not really care about how the story was or how.
Like,
If you notice, there was not much character depth in quite a lot of these movies back then.
To be honest, what I think is that the old movies. I mean, not right now. Most of them have the same storyline, I guess, right?
what do you mean?
I mean, they show the hero, and then the heroine shows up. Villain, tries to kidnap the heroine, and hero fights with villain, and hero and heroine fall in love.
Actually, I think the hero and heroine falling in love would occur in between,
somewhere-
and then the villain will
somewhere, but
kidnap the heroine.
Yeah, but then it's kind of like the same thing again and again for
Pretty much Mario. It's pretty much
When
like
was the
Mario.
Yeah.
You just have new maps of the same exact game, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When was a female character in any movie shown as anything else but a love interest?
Yeah, that's completely true, and the emphasis on the fact that love can actually win any kind of war is something which has been beaten to death.
And basically, in most Indian movies, at some point, the villain beats the crap out of the hero. He's about to lose. Then he looks at the character, the heroine. He gets a boost because of how beautiful she is or some shit. And by some miracle, he wins the fight even though he's half dead. And then the hero and heroine hug each other, and then it's like the movie is over after this song comes up.
No, it's not just that the heroine is just beautiful. It's also that the hero actually feels. He has feelings for her. So, as you know, love or pyar can win anything, isn't it?
Pyar, kadal, pyar, love, whatever words we have.
Their way
in
of
these
adding
Indian
character
languages
depth,
for
I
love.
guess.
The number of songs are there.
It's basically a
Oh
musical.
God.
Every single.
It's
Indian
not a
movie at this
musical,
point.
because in musicals, the whole point of the music is to further the plot. It's to give
Yeah, except this
exposition to the
thing
audience.
just doesn't make sense at some time.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
yeah.
music.
I do
The
think
music
that.
in most.
Yeah. Go
So
on.
yeah, sorry. The music in most Indian movies, for the most part, unlike musicals in like Hollywood, for example, it does nothing to develop the characters. It doesn't do anything to provide exposition to the people in the audience. It does nothing except provide like a way through which to have a massive like a spectacle of these beautiful actors and actresses dressed up in these clothes and have good production values just for the sake of eye candy. There's no
It's
reason.
basically a dance choreography in
exa-
between of a
I
movie.
guess you can't call I guess you can't call an Indian movie unless there are music or dances in it randomly occurring right in the middle of the movie. I mean that's what.
No,
Dude,
I do think
When
that
I lived in the UK, the only Indian-ish movie they watched was Slumdog Millionaire, and
But then,
literally
I mean, there's only
they
few
no.
There's only few movies, Indian movies where you don't have any music or something. Which
No,
people
I'm just
dance.
saying, even
Yeah.
Slumdog Millionaire, which isn't an Indian movie but set in India, they have these morons start dancing in the middle of the train,
I
going
mean,
Jai
yeah,
ho,
yeah,
Jai ho.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, literally every single English person asks me, "Do you know Jai ho? Do you know Jai ho?" I'm like, I don't speak Hindi. I don't know a single line except Jai ho. That's the only thing I know.
I think Jeho was more of a patriotic song, and I think, in my opinion, it suited the context of
I
the
mean,
film.
it did, yeah.
But if you talk about the songs in Indian films overall, if you go back way to the 60s and the 70s, you used to have songs because people wanted to further make the plot move ahead. They did not just sing just for the sake of singing or just for the sake of having a song. Rather, the hero or whoever was singing the song was going to explain what his intentions were for the next half of the film.
I mean, yeah,
Pretty
that's
much,
what
it's
most of the movies which have songs do make sense. Why do they have it? But then there's some
No,
movies,
that's back in the day.
Yeah, back in
That was back in
yeah,
the-
but then there are some movies where they just have to put a song right in the middle of the movie. I mean, it's like
That is something which has been
it's like a
happening.
tradition. I mean, I guess now it's like a
Recently,
tradition
what
for
I
Indian
noticed
movies.
was the songs usually have more budget than the movie itself.
I mean, yeah, they do.
So
They
for
do.
me-
I mean, they have to go all the
Yeah,
way
they
to.
do.
I mean,
They have
where
to go
Switzerland mostly.
Switzerland. Yeah.
It's Italy, you name
Like,
it.
they literally
You
just
like
spend all the money,
All the
like,
Himalayas.
all the
Yeah.
Himalayas, exactly.
I
They
think
just
that's
spend
where
all
all
the
the
money going
profit also
abroad.
lies, basically.
I mean, yeah. I
on
mean, most
music.
of them are for. I mean, the video. I mean, where the people have. Shot the movie at mostly due to the songs, and the other is just because of the plot or the actors as well.
It's almost
Another-
the same way Disney works, except movie doesn't make enough money as this.
That's true.
I mean, yeah.
Exactly.
Speaking
People
of-
used to break into songs earlier on, and then it either used to be for furthering the plot or it used to be a celebratory song where genuinely speaking, people inside the movie felt like they were celebrating in real life.
But then in
But
the
things changed
90s,
in the 90s
yeah.
and 2000s, where the party culture developed,
But
and
Abhinav, let me just. But
yeah.
you tell me this: when you watch an Indian movie in the theater, it's completely different. The vibes that you get from that movie is completely different when you watch a
Oh
Hollywood
yes,
movie. 'Cause
it's
the
not meant to
feeling-
be
I
taken
mean,
seriously.
the feeling of the, I mean, where some people, the hardcore fans of the actor, when they literally just show up on the screen, everyone just goes wild. I mean, that
But
gives
some of that
I mean, yeah, but
adoration isn't.
I mean,
Some of
that
that
gives you a
adoration
much
is.
more better vibe of. I mean, you want to watch.
No,
the
but
movie in
the
theater.
problem I have of that is some of the adoration these actors get is literally not warranted. Because in the olden days, like when in our parents' generation, these actors, this is when the Indian film industry was coming up. They were like no one was related to anyone. These actors and directors had to come up with their own talent and skill. Only the best of the best could make money in this industry. But nowadays, nowadays, past the 90s and 2000s and 2010s, 2020s, most of the big name actors are just the daughters or the sons of directors and like the old school actors, and that's not, it's like
Before we go to that, what Rahul talked about is also something. I wouldn't say it's a problem, but it has been a generational thing. Because
Yeah, that's
let's say you have been you were born in 1980, and when you reach 1990, you're 10 years old. So from 10 years old, when you actually grew, back then, in the 1990s or the 2000s, for example, you never really had the internet to actually search for different films. You never had Netflix. You never had, Prime Video or whatever to watch different movies. Rather, you used to have, and when you used to go to the cinemas, you used to have the same set of actors who used to repeatedly perform in different movies, and they used to make movies really quickly because, and they used to not offer variety in their films, that people got used to these movies, and this is what they came to expect from these people. So it's that people have no other idea as to how as to whether movies can be made differently. They grew up watching these films, and hence that's how they think Indian films have to be.
Yeah.
So, and I think that
people's
culture has
yeah,
evolved into a big thing.
Yeah, like people's expectation. I mean, they expect to be the same thing what they used to do before. So that I mean, that's kind of one way why you don't find those many varieties, I guess, in these movies. But then, yeah.
Let's say, like you said, let's say
those movies actually brainwashed people. Right now, I'm like 20 something, and I still know nothing about real life. I mean, not like. They show really less reality and so much fantastical stuff and all that.
I mean,
some
at one
guy
point,
will
yeah,
come and
exactly.
say-
At one point when I was a kid, I actually thought, I guess I can do this because he can do that.
I think it's almost.
I wouldn't mind if they show fantastical stuff as well. It's just that these films lack a basic sense of morality, in my opinion.
At this point, it's just like someone applying the template and just doing it over and over again.
And once you know that a certain template works in the Indian film industry, it will be done repeatedly until you are beaten to death.
I mean, yeah, exactly.
Even after it's beaten to death, they keep doing it.
Yeah, some people, let's say a director, he makes a movie. Let's say it's a different type of movie compared to the other normal movies which we get from the Indian one. This guy makes a hit movie and then he gets lots of money, and then now everyone else wants a piece of that action. So they start making those same things, like Yasin said.
Hollywood does something similar.
They take the same template and then put it on.
I mean, Hollywood does something similar, but they don't copy paste it beat for beat over the other
yeah,
movies.
Exactly.
How many times have we seen Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge? That film has been, the same storyline has been transcending into different generations, and we see similar stories.
They made a remake themselves at
Yeah,
the
that's
end.
what. That was like a baseline for every other movie. People have to start. I mean, okay, now this movie was a super hit, and then it was playing for almost 24 years in a single theater. So now these guys want to have a same piece of that action. So everyone else, all the directors, producers, and all that, they're like, okay, fine, let's take that as a concept, and let's just change one or two dialogues, and we'll make a hit in our industry.
Or in some cases, they just change the language. They just change the language to a certain regional Indian language, and they just rip it off completely.
We all know the psychological thing that guys did to girls, where if the girl turns back towards the guy, it means she likes him or she.
Oh my god, that's so true.
It started.
That's completely unrealistic.
It's like, I mean, the romance in most Indian movies pretty much follows. Like a guy sees a pretty girl, follows her for half the movie, girl says no repeatedly, then a song happens, girl somehow falls in love,
No.
and
Hero
then
fights. There's a fight scene where the hero.
oh,
wins.
there's a fight scene. Yes, that's true. Like
Of course, there's a fight scene where the hero has to prove his worth to the heroine by defeating.
by protecting the girl from some villains, and
At
then
this point,
somehow
it
that
looks
makes
like
her fall in love
no,
with him.
at this point, it looks like Nat Geography.
What do you mean?
the, the hero is like some apex predator trying to prove himself to the female animal. He fights on all these villains and all these guys. He's like, my place, my area. I rule this area.
Oh God, you are so right, to be honest. And I think
It's like
I don't know how we went from movies to Nat Geo, but I'm
It's
fine
like
with
it's
it.
legit. It's a David Attenborough narrating an Indian movie. Now we see a typical Indian hero. He looks like a normal guy, but apparently he's way better than everyone else. Now we see a bad guy run towards him.
The
He
hero is in
flicks
his
him-
natural habitat.
Yeah, natural habitat. He flicks him with one finger, and then his head comes flying off. You know,
And then
oh God.
and cue music. Cue music.
cue music, cue
I
random
mean,
dance
at least
sequence.
Nat Geographic has proper editing to its documentary.
I
But
guess
Indian films back in 90s and 2000s did not have proper fight choreography. They did not have proper editing, and their creative liberties were not taken at all. I mean, when they were taken, they were completely out of the ordinary.
But it didn't perform
completely
very
unrealistic.
well. Most of the time when I try something new, most of those movies didn't perform very well, unfortunately. Well, many of them.
Recently, I noticed something. Soap operas in India have better video quality than the film itself.
Really?
I mean, I
Oh
guess
my
I did
I
notice
guess it's the
that.
reason because the old movies kind of had that same texture of the or aspect ratio they had for all the other movies, and I guess that's like something which people want to see in a movie, or that's what differentiates a movie to a soap opera.
Let's talk about the fight sequences in the 90s and 2000s.
Oh my
What do you guys
God.
think?
Oh,
Oh,
dude,
God.
don't get me started with that.
Let me describe one beautiful fight scene. Okay, a chase scene. Like there's one hero in a jeep. There are two like people in blue villains or whatever, the villains goons chasing behind him. The one villain's behind him chasing another jeep. Another villain's in front of him in another jeep. But the villain behind the hero is shooting like a bazooka at him. The rocket's going like 2 miles an hour super slowly. The hero sees the missile coming
rearview
towards him
mirror.
in his rear mirror, and he gets scared. He turns the steering wheel to the left. The car itself flips over, goes past the hero's car, and hits the car in front of him, blows that up, and then he escapes.
Oh yes, I know. I know exactly the movie you're
Gosh,
referring
but
to,
then
but I'm not going to talk about it.
Yeah, I guess Scorpio and was that Tata Safari? I guess these guys sponsor every single South Indian
And
movie.
the-
I guess.
And
So
all those cars get destroyed in the
exactly.
movie.
I mean, because every single movie they use these particular cars. I mean, when
Or maybe it's cheaper to get. Who knows?
I mean,
And the Omni Man for the kidnapping. scene.
exactly. I
Ah,
mean,
that's
like
true, that's
one of
true.
the thing. I mean, these are the three iconic vehicles in movies which everyone know. Tata Safari.
Dude, I was afraid of
Mahindra
Omni
Scorpio,
vehicles.
and Omni.
I was afraid of Omni vehicles as a kid because I thought someone would kidnap me and my family.
I mean, yeah, but then I mean, in one way, it's kind of like what do you say? A place where whoever wants to show off the new vehicles, they show it in
Yeah,
the
product
movies.
placement.
Yeah,
product placement.
and then they show it off in the movies. It gets exploded. They use that same vehicle in the next movie for somehow, I don't know. And then people, oh, this is a nice car because it blows up and nothing happens to it. So let's go buy that.
Like if you want to compare, let me put it this way. Of course, half the problem is that it's the Indian film industry. You haven't got much money for fight choreography. But if you look at old school Chinese kung fu movies, like old school Jackie Chan Bruce Lee movies, those fight scenes they barely had any budget, and those guys like risked their lives to make these amazing action
I
sequences.
mean, most of them are who are trained in those particular.
I mean,
martial
that's
arts
true. Like in
areas.
China, for example, I'm not sure if it's China or
Mhm.
Hong Kong. It's one of those two. They either have they have something called the Peking Opera
I mean,
School
in
or
Indian
something.
cinema, you can just like fly.
I mean,
You can
yeah,
fly legit.
that's basically
I
the
mean,
whole thing. If you
we
want to
have
have a
our own
particular
martial-
superpower, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Like we have our own martial arts. We can actually.
Yeah, you just fly whenever you want.
encourage
Just like
people
think
to-
about it.
Exactly what I was thinking. Why don't we? It was a wasted opportunity. We never really utilized our own martial art forms into the films in the 90s and 2000s. And I think the generations which kept watching these are only now starting to realize that there was immense potential for Indian film industries to go one step forward, but rather they went 10 steps
In
backward,
the action choreography, especially because if you look at things
especially
like
in the action choreography.
no,
Exactly.
because I'm talking about old school movies. If you look at things like Police Story, which is a Jackie Chan movie made in the 80s or 90s, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Dude, the fight sequences in that are insane. They're better than
I
most of
mean,
the stuff
yeah,
Jackie Chan did in the West.
Yeah, I mean, they have a proper choreograph. I mean, they have a proper. I mean, people.
I mean,
who
Jackie
know-
Chan's Jackie Chan's like the king of action scenes.
Exactly.
To be
They have
fair,
all
like
this.
They actually use
Yeah.
they actually use martial arts for their fights,
Yeah.
which are
Yeah.
based off the actual ones. Whereas
And
here you
it's
just
also-
like fly out the roof.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
even
it's true,
talking
like,
about, no, even
in-
talking about fight scenes. I mean, in most of the Hollywood movies, they only use one angle of the actor fighting.
what do you
Then-
mean?
I mean, like for example, if Jackie Chan is fighting, it's only like one side of him showing. If he's showing his
You mean it's like
side,
one take?
yeah,
one take.
or one take, or only one side of him fighting. But then when you see it in the Indian movies, when there's an action scene, there's like 3 to 4 scenes of the same guy. He's beating the same guy beating.
Oh
up the
yeah,
other
pretty
person.
much like one punch will be shown in 5 different angles
Yeah,
with
exactly.
the same result.
Like there are different angles for all these Indian movies. I mean, if the hero is beating up the villain.
No.
let's say-
He doesn't even punch. Half the time the villains run towards the hero. He just stands there. They fly away.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there are like 4 or 5 angles of it, but then when you compare it with the Hollywood one, there's only like one angle of
To
the
be
actor.
fair to most
Having many
most.
angles,
Sorry, go on.
having many angles is not the problem, but
I mean,
the
it's
way
kind-
you
I mean-
choreograph it and film it is what it depends.
Yeah, I mean, like,
So,
I feel sad for that guy. Keep on getting pulled back each and every single shot.
And I think it's not just about comparing it with Hollywood, for example. We can talk about various other Asian industries as well. Like
Yeah,
Rosh talked
that's
about
true.
Police Story with Jackie Chan in Hong Kong. We can go to Indonesia. We can go to Korea. Films back then over there did not really focus on larger than life elements. Rather, they focused on grounded realism and
think-
morality.
Yeah, I think Navi has more to talk about than us about Asian cinema.
How do you think Asian cinema was in the 90s and 2000s, Navi?
the 90s and 2000s, like there were romantic stories, but they were not like these Indian movies where it was like guy chasing a girl and all that. Yeah, the Nat Geographic thing. They show this slice of life, even though they have this little what do you call it, fantastical
Soap
element.
opera-ish.
Yeah, but there is a slice of life element in all those movies. If you see, like, for anime, I know it's a different topic, but they have this very realistic things, even though you have all this
Larger than
Just
life characters.
Like not
and,
like they
motivation.
have like day-to-day stuff that the people like going to school, going to
Yeah,
work, just friends,
exactly.
talking to friends and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like, you know,
exactly.
And I
Yeah.
think it's
But-
not just that. It's not
Yeah.
just that. There are other compliments of you used to have stunning editing. You used to have proper camera work. You used to have a real script, dialogues. Everything used to work well together when you were talking about that. And I think that was
Yeah.
not really shown in Indian cinema, isn't it?
In Asian movies, I know even if the story is not so great, if it in an Asian movie, an average Asian movie is way better than most Indian movies because of the cinematography, the screenplay. Oh my god, the amazing camera work. Like I said in my K-pop episode before, like in Asia, for some reason they have mastered the editing, they have mastered the camera work, they have mastered the screenplay. Like, trust me, if you see the behind the scenes and how they're made, and you go see the original thing, you will be mind blown at the amount of efforts and work that they put. And the plots itself, they're like so good. You know, there's the movie called Korean movie called Miracle in Cell Number 7.
Oh
Which
yes,
is
I
a
think I've
very-
heard of it.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
No idea.
It's about his father getting into jail. He's like wrongly accused, and he gets this death sentence. Oh my god, spoiler alert! But he gets a
I
death
mean,
sentence.
He's in the jail cell, so you know.
So he gets a death sentence. He has a daughter. He has like this 8-year-old
In
daughter.
in jail?
No. She's not in jail.
Oh,
The
okay,
thing
never
is
mind.
that she sneaks into jail, and how that story goes about. How, oh my god, it's such a heart-wrenching story. You guys should
It's-
watch it, dude.
Judging from what she's
Well-
saying, all these characters have enough character depth. And the fact that Indian movies
Exactly.
lack that one particular thing is a bit frustrating,
Like,
isn't it? I guess all
in
of us can
Indian-
agree.
in Indian movies, like the
Exactly.
characters are kind of like Saturday morning cartoon villains. They're very one or two dimensional.
One dimensional. I'll say they're too one dimensional.
Like I mean, the acting in so many of these movies are quite wooden. It's like they're either overacting or underacting. A lot of these
I
actors.
mean, I guess that's maybe due to the pay grade what the actors get.
I mean,
Oh yes.
Oh,
No.
maybe that could also be a reason, especially
Yeah.
with the
But
female.
I do think that Bollywood could have used that opportunity because there were a few movies, like for example, the love stories and all, which worked really well in the 90s. And using that, the directors could have taken a bold step forward by going towards experimental films and ensuring that they put more emphasis on the
Mhm.
script, the screenplay, the editing, the acting, and
There are
the
good
dialogue delivery.
writers in India. They just like go abroad and they probably find somewhere and they can afford
Probably.
them.
That
Yeah.
as well. That as
Kamla,
well.
Night Kamla.
I noticed
Kamla?
recently
Night
in
Shyamalan. M. Night
Yeah,
Shyamalan.
Night
I
Shyamalan.
recently
I'm so
noticed in
sorry.
like the new version of High School Musical, which is going on right now.
There's a new version.
The
of
writer
There's
is
a
High
new
School
version of High School Musical.
They basically made a series with it for Disney Plus.
What?
Oh wow.
And I noticed who the writer was. He was an Indian.
Was he Indian American? Was he
Wow.
proper Indian who went to America? There's a difference.
Proper Indian who went to America.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh, come
Wow.
on.
I mean,
now.
M. Night
I mean-
Shyamalan was a proper Indian who went to America, isn't he?
Really?
Yes, he
His
was.
movies
An immigrant.
He grew,
There
he
are
grew
a
up in
lot of
Pondicherry.
Indians who just like went there basically.
That's for most industries, not just
Mhm.
cinema.
Yeah.
And I think that reflects.
I mean, I guess that can be. I mean, many people who work in who studied in India and going abroad. That I mean, people can just find that out in our previous podcast, I guess.
Oh
True,
no,
true,
we're not
true.
going to talk about the education system for a very
No,
long
no,
time.
no, 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 no.
No.
But
Okay.
rather, if you think about it, that it shows that we haven't really utilized this to the maximum extent, and people have
I
grown up
mean-
watching these one-dimensional
mean-
characters, these one-dimensional films, and now these actors have their own star kids, like Rosh said early on in the podcast. And there is a growing trend of nepotism, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like many actors only get a shot just because they're related to another actor. Like, I know nepotism exists in Hollywood, but for example, Tom Hanks's kid's an actor. I think like, and I think I forget the guy who is the main character in Schitt's Creek, which is a really good comedy series.
Let's just
his
say we're
dad-
just like 10 levels ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, no, but I'll give you an example. For example, like I remember listening to a podcast the other day, and this actor, I forgot his name, he's related to another famous Canadian actor. But the thing he said was nepotism only gets you so far. Yeah, it gets you auditions, but if you mess up the audition, it doesn't matter whose son you are, you won't get in the movie.
Yeah.
It's a different story
That-
here though.
That's
Yeah.
yeah.
Like Will Smith, for example. Will Smith tried to make his son a superstar and it failed miserably. If Will Smith was an Indian actor, he would be the topmost actor right now, even though Will Smith's son isn't the best actor in the world, to put it lightly.
And that did really hurt the upcoming talent, isn't it? Because the people who really can show the talent are not really allowed into the industry because of various nepotism issues everywhere
Yeah,
else.
that's true.
And I wouldn't mind if nepotism happens and these star kids actually have the potential to act and become really good actors. But it's just that they don't even seem to be trying. That hit really hurts the most.
It's like it's like they phone it in literally.
It's
a
like
lot of
it's like
young
they have
talent
nothing to do with life, and then they were forced to go into these films and act in there, and they do it so lifelessly that the audience completely lose interest.
I guess. Navi, you were saying something else? I don't.
Yeah, like there's a lot of potential. Like we're 1.2 billion people. Like how hard is it to find someone whose quality of acting is like really high?
It's not just the actors being related to upper actors. Even like for example, in most movies, even if the actor's slightly dark skinned, they would make them look whiter just so that the movie like apparently runs, quote unquote runs. It's like it's a lot of racism in our industry as well. It's like if you like a lot, like for example, many dark skinned actors, especially in many Bollywood movies, the directors only cast them in roles where they're like poor or they're from the lower class or something like that, and that's kind of messed up. And if they're dark skinned, the directors will be like, don't worry, ma, we'll make you lighter skin so the movie runs properly. It's like
You can actually notice through some actors actually through their career they'll just let their skin lightens over time.
yeah, it's like
That's
it's
it,
so
yeah.
it's
And
like
I
Yeah,
think-
I mean, there are many actors who, I mean,
That's-
we can see that transition.
I mean in
You can
Hollywood
see
it
that
did
especially
happen.
with female actors. Like
Oh my
how
god,
with
with female actors, yes, that's so true.
Yeah, that's true.
With male
Um,
actors, it's not so strict. But if you see with the female actors, if you've seen actresses like in a 10 year span, how they started and how they are right now, you'll be mind blown at the difference.
Like
And I think it's not completely the actress's fault as well, because they were
Yeah,
indeed
it's
forced to change into a
Mhm.
lighter skin, because there's believe it or not, even if you're not willing to admit it or not, there is quite a lot of casual racism in India. I
I
think skin
know.
color racism is the most important out of all of these.
It's like
Yes.
it's so stupid. It's like my relatives, my relatives whenever like if I get like my skin a bit tan because I'm going outside, they're like, you've gotten darker, no? Like it's a bad thing. I'm like, I didn't notice. And then COVID, since I'm inside most of the time, my skin's gotten lighter, and my relatives are like, oh my god, you look so much better, you look lighter. I'm like, what?
And it shows.
Yeah,
And it shows.
colors are
People itself are really, really
that
conscious
too-
about how the skin looks like.
That too, all these actors and actresses, they promote these skincare products which don't work, saying you'll get the job you want, you become beautiful just because you have lighter skin. And it's like, what the hell?
Mhm. I think
Instead
recently
they have this
companies
really
got under
harmful-
flame for this and they're like changing names.
Oh, that's true. It's
recently.
changing now, but it's still a bit of a problem.
Yeah, I mean, there
You
are
know,
some
even the
companies which are
ingredients they
changing,
use.
renaming their brands because of this.
Mm.
Even
They've
the
done
ingredients that
everything.
they
What-
use in
there's-
these,
Sorry?
even the ingredients that they use in this so-called skincare and all that, they're like
Organic.
really harmful for the skin, which will have like permanent
They are?
effects. Yeah, they are.
Oh,
Like,
I didn't know
I-
that.
Raw
That would be a really good topic for another podcast episode.
I mean,
Yeah, all these whitening creams or brightening creams, instead of whitening, they change into brightening.
And that's the thing.
So
They get these actresses to represent these brands and show that if you use this product, you're gonna get get whitened up as well. And
Yeah, you'll get a
that's a
job.
problem which is deeply rooted in the industries, not just in the South Indian industries, but specifically speaking, it's predominant in the Bollywood industry as well.
I guess
And,
Ross is now
Yeah.
thinking about all the mistakes he's done in his life to become fair.
what?
Oh,
What?
did he?
And I'm
Who?
just saying, I mean,
Wherever
I,
we are, I really hope that people are really proud of the color, and I guess that extends. I'm pretty sure that extends to Bollywood
I mean,
as well,
the
because
thing is, Hollywood, it did kind of happen where white, especially in the 60s. For example, in 1962, I believe, a movie called Lawrence of Arabia was made, which is about a guy called T.E. Lawrence, who was a man who fought a British officer who fought in World War I alongside the Arabs and helped them win their side of the war. And Alec Guinness, who is the guy who played Obi-Wan Kenobi, played, I forget the name of the prince, but he played a really important Arabic prince. And the acting, mind you, Alec Guinness is a great actor, so he did a great job of the role. But you have to remember, this is the 1960s, so a white actor portraying like a brown-skinned guy or an Asian guy was not that wasn't considered to be offensive because this was 50, 60 years ago. But
Okay.
things have changed. Like you can't do the same thing now in modern day India because we're modernizing. You can't have these old school ideas. Saying only white-skinned actors in a country full of dark-skinned people can be like portrayed as these beautiful, amazing people on screen. It's just a wrong mentality to have. Modern day
Exactly.
Americans and British people in making movies don't have that anymore.
And I really feel that both the actors and the actresses have to embrace this brown skin. If they really do have a brown skin, then yes, I think they have to really completely embrace it and be proud of what
I mean, there's
skin
nothing.
color they have.
Just to clarify, there's nothing wrong with Indians with light skin, but to pretend that's the only thing that's beautiful is just wrong.
Yeah.
That's true.
And I guess we can do better because I don't think it's solely on the actors or the actresses who are really responsible for doing this. It's also the producers and the directors who force these actresses to ensure that they're as fair as possible. And it's a mindset which is deeply rooted in the Indian minds.
And speaking of
it's
forcing
pretty-
actresses to do things, remember the item songs that used to be popular back in the day?
oh my
Oh.
Oh,
god. Oh my god. Oh yeah.
Like,
What?
explain to the foreign audience what an item song is.
How do we do this?
I don't know how to explain this.
Okay, basically, there's one song which lasts 4 or 5 minutes in the movie, specifically there to show off an actress in super revealing clothing and having zoom ups of her assets, for lack of a better term, for no other reason other than to excite the male audience in the theater.
No, I think it's
Well,
just
I
the
guess in one way it's a
over-sexualization.
form of art.
Not really.
Boy, that you don't call such
I'm sorry.
things
I'm
art.
sorry. I'm
You'll
sorry.
It really is an art.
I'm sorry.
It's not an art.
I don't think zooming up on the belly button of an actress is art.
No, no, not all that. Not all that. Not all
That's
that.
like complete sexual harassment.
I mean,
if
yeah,
you
not
ask
all
me.
that. I mean, the way they portrayed the song. I mean, like
No.
the setting. No, the
No,
settings.
Rahul,
No.
no.
I'm talking about these.
No.
Okay, fine.
No, 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 no.
Just when
It's sexual
We are actually
harassment
seeing the
on
true side of
camera.
Ram.
it's hardly harassment, but it's just over sexualization. There's nothing wrong
To
with
be honest,
actresses
this is
being
not my
attractive.
true side. To be honest, this is not my true side.
Let's ignore that. We're not your therapist, okay? It's not.
We're not
No, I
going to
mean
judge
and it doesn't serve the purpose for the film as well. There is no youth in
Exactly.
the plot. It's
I
just
mean-
it just solely exists for the
I mean-
purpose of entertainment or party song.
I mean, granted, like I mean, in Hollywood movies, they have like attractive women wearing slightly revealing clothing, but they don't spend 5 minutes mentioning that in a song.
And yes, exactly. These item songs are not just about visual appeal. It's also about using the lyrics to convey a sexual meaning to the audience. And I think that's not really necessary in films right now. Now, granted, there is this idea of the idea of item songs actually came back from way back. If you go back to the Mughal era, where the kings and the courtiers
Yeah,
actually
but
used
that's
to
different because the kings, it was in their courthouses. It was a private thing.
exactly
Not
yes, it was a
everyone looked
private
at
thing.
it.
That's the point, and that evolved slowly into, and that a similar thing happened with the British Raj as well. And I think that evolved slowly into the films by showing that back in the day, back in older Indian films, not just Bollywood but also other movie industries as well. Let's say the South Indian industries as well. The main reason why the item song existed was not for the fact that they existed just for the sake of having an item song. Rather, a few of the item songs used to have some basis, or they used to serve some basis on the plot.
What do you mean?
It used to be like either tricking a certain king or a queen, or tricking a messenger for the king, and it used to gel well together. And I wouldn't say that happened with all the films back in the day, but I think this trend slowly became popular with the rural audience or the urban audience as well, and slowly evolved into a completely different thing. And right now it's just over sexualization and probably sexism, if you think about it.
Oh my god.
I mean,
the
to be
amount of-
To be fair, certain songs have the guys like having like 8-packs and stuff with like the muscle inside of bowling balls and like dancing around.
And
Well,
that's
I guess
the thing,
that's
and
the
that's the
true
thing.
side of Raj.
Oh, thank you,
Yeah,
thank you.
The item songs actually came under the wrath of the audience of late. And
Really?
what Bollywood thought is, fine, if we
What?
are
What?
portraying
Wait.
women in this
No,
way,
no,
then
can
let's
you-
do
can
the
you say that
opposite.
again? No, can you say that again?
The Bollywood songs, the
Yeah.
item songs came under the wrath of the audience.
When?
Oh, I mean,
Oh,
when?
for the past 10 years. It's a fairly recent thing.
Oh, okay,
And
okay, fair enough.
people have been questioning as to why these things have become popular. I think the trend started in 2005 or 6, where people started to question the authenticity of or the purpose of item songs in a film. So what the Bollywood makers did was they tried to reverse the trend by saying that here you go, we're having even the male actors to do something similar, and I guess this is for the female audience. And I don't think that really solved anything, isn't it? it never really served any purpose. What's the point of over sexualizing an actor or an actress?
Once again, Hollywood movies have a similar thing where like especially the recent like big blockbuster movies, they have a scene like a 2-3 second scene where the main character is shirtless and they show how like big his pecs are or whatever. But once again, 2 seconds of one scene versus a 5-minute song are two very different things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't think and again by I'm saying they're over sexualizing of the male actors. I think if you really need an example, you can probably take Darde Disco songs from Om Shanti Om. and I think that's just one example. There have been several movies which I've done before. There's nothing really wrong with the film. It's just that they're reversing the trend and saying that over sexualizing anybody is good for that matter. It defeats the whole purpose, isn't it? What's the point of having it when it doesn't really serve any basis for the plot or moving the film forwards?
Speaking of that, I mean, speaking of comparing it to Hollywood, there's one thing that Indian movies lack. that I don't think is going to change anytime soon is that the quality of our CGI and VFX is nowhere near as good as Hollywood's.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes, I completely agree.
Like,
And I think one of the reasons is that we don't really have the budget for it.
but even then, once again, like I said, with these old school, like if you look at old school, then again, that's a true point. Even in old school Hollywood movies, they had more money than us in the 80s and stuff to make these practical effects, which we really don't have the cash for. But even then, it's like I can't think of any specific examples where like
Even when we had enough money, Robot 2.0 or
oh yeah.
Oh
We
it
yeah,
almost
and
looked
I think-
like some kid who's learning Unreal Engine just went inside and decided
Yeah, the
to make a
CGI
movie.
on those movies where it looked
In one way, the Indian industry did increase. I mean, did improve from its previous movies about the VFX and CGI. But then I
It
guess
just wasn't good enough, let's say.
yeah, it wasn't good enough. But then in a way, I guess they are starting to implement CGI movies right now into their movies like Bahubali. Where most of the majority was VFX, but then there were some scenes where they did use CGI. So
I think Bahubali was a good example of a well-made
Improved
Indian
CGI.
movie.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't say the film was perfect with its graphics.
We're not
and
going to say it's
whatever.
perfect,
No,
but
exactly.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because
It's a step in the right
the thing
direction.
is like,
isn't it?
Exactly.
yeah, it's,
I mean,
it's a really good.
Rajamouli
Yeah.
did do a really good job in how he directed the movie and then how he portrayed the actor and all that. So like, yeah, the VFX is actually was really good. But then when you compare it with the CGI part, I mean, there's a lot of place.
by
for,
VFX you
improvement.
mean by VFX you mean like the background palaces.
Well, yeah.
and
So yeah, VFX is basically all those background and those explosions. That's where you use VFX, and CGI are more used for your close-up shots because it gives you that minute detail of the actor or the.
like for example, like Thanos' face and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all CGI. So
So,
yeah, even
and
in
I
Infinity
think,
War, they
it-
did use VFX as well, but then just because there was more close-up shots of each and every single actor, and not every single actor is a human in that movie, it's mostly CGI as well in that.
AKA Rocket Raccoon and Mr. Groot.
Yeah.
And I think we didn't Indian films in general back then did not really, let's say we did not really have the budget to execute that levels of CGI.
Are the
True.
expertise.
But then the
Uh,
way, I mean, actually, the way they showed and I mean, like, you know, those olden days black and white movies where they had
60s, 70s.
Ramayan, and then you have all these other
Mahabharata.
movies, Mahabharata, all that. In that, the
100%.
VFX and the idea of portraying like a single arrow splitting into like 5 or 100 or something, that was like
But-
a creative part of them, like, you know, trying to let's say play with the VFX and know how it's used. But then when you
They
compare
put
the-
actual effort into changing it. Yeah,
exactly, yeah. But then those made sense back then. I mean, it was like they're trying to, you know, play with it. But then when you compare that same movie, a remake in the, you know, our latest, let's say 2017, or I guess they made a remake of Mahabharatam, or was it Ramayana? I'm not quite sure. I'm sorry. But then the VFX in that was horrible. I mean, they just ruined the whole movie, I guess.
And I think back then in the 60s they used a mix of both CGI, I mean not
Practical
CGI,
effects.
You didn't have
VFX, practical
CGI back
effects,
then. We
and
didn't have
VFX.
CGI back then. It's
We
only
did not really
VFX.
have it, so it was completely practical
It's
effect.
only VFX.
And what
yeah.
and what people can do now is that they cannot necessarily allocate all the budget towards having CGI or VFX. Rather, they can have a
Because-
mix of that and practical effects because that works really well together.
The
Exactly.
problem of practical effects is that it takes a lot of time to get to do properly. Like these old school movies, like for example, like these guys seen the movie The Thing, the horror movie The Thing in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, do you know the monster they use in that, right? The
Yes,
actual
yeah,
alien.
yeah.
Yes, of
More-
course, I know. Yeah.
All of that was practical effects because the guy who did it, I forget the actor, I forget the VFX guy, whatever his name is, but the guy who did it had years of experience doing special effects for movies, which and you know because in Hollywood the quality of special effects does get better and better with every decade. He had that to fall back on, all those like years of knowledge and experience, and also the budget of a Hollywood movie. Most
And that's
Indian
exactly
special
the
effects.
point.
I mean, yeah, that's what.
For
but
most
even
Indian,
though,
most
I mean,
Indian special effects artists don't have those years of experience where
exactly,
the industry
that's
gets
what,
better and better,
Yeah, exactly.
and
so
we
if
don't
you
have
put
the
a high
money.
budget on the movie, you still will be getting the same, end product of the same one if you put a low budget movie on it.
And
The-
one of
the
the
same
problems
crappy
with
effects.
Yeah, one of the problems
Yeah.
with this this whole allocating this separate budget for VFX is that now the producers give the directors or every other single assistant director or the special effects directors and everyone, they get this they get given this budget as an overall package rather than not being split up. So what happens is
Yeah.
half of the budget goes to paying the actors itself, paying for their remuneration, and
yeah.
what little money they have left is so little that you can't really recreate what your vision is onto the screen. And for practical effects, like Ross said, that years of experience is needed and quite a lot of, it's a very time intensive thing.
Yeah,
What
exactly.
that's the whole point, isn't it? We're going to the movies to enjoy the experience rather than watching a lifeless or mindless action entertainer. Rather, you
Like-
want to go and experience realism. Rather, you don't want it to be as cartoonish
I
as you
mean,
want.
that expectations of realistic fight scenes, realistic acting, realistic whatever only came around when in the mid 2000s, early 2010s, when Indian audiences finally had access to Western films with better production values. So we expect the same in Indian films. It's the only reason
And
why
it's
we're
not
changing.
just
I mean,
it's not
I
just the
guess,
Western
yeah,
films again,
yeah.
mind you. It's also with the Asian industry as well.
Exactly.
True, but most-
We are probably the biggest or the second biggest industry in Asia, but we are still far lagging behind in terms of technical quality.
And also storytelling and cinematography.
And that as well.
you know,
See,
Sorry?
sometimes with the movies, with Indian movies, like it's all about like either hero being this glorified thing or some random love story.
Yeah, I mean, he
But I
has to be
really
portrayed as
wish-
the main person no matter what.
Yeah. But I really wish we had a lot of historical stuff so that we could at least learn our history through movies, because movies have
yeah,
a lot of.
last time we
see
did
the
that, it became a bit of a problem. So that's never gonna happen.
what
But the
what
thing
film
is
are you
that-
referring to?
Shush. I won't mention a name. I don't want to die.
Uh, because with Asian movies, if you see in general, like if you go in China or Japan or Korea, they have like a lot of historical movies which are actually based on their actual history. Though the story part might be fictional, but you know the elements of them being
But the
a king
problem,
and queen dude.
I mean, the problem with that is we can't, because things are still contentious in India right now with different people with different religions, blah 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 blah. Because of our history, and because of course certain individuals within our country want to weaponize those differences just to get votes.
Weaponized.
People,
I
I
mean,
mean,
we can use
we
it in a
can't.
really good
No.
way
We cannot. Unlike China, I'm not sure what the political thing is like in China. But if they made a historical movie, say set during, I don't know, the Mughal Empire, say during during Ashoka's time, they will make a controversy out of it just to rile up their extreme voters, just so that they can get a vote. It won't be. They won't take it. They'll just make a big deal out of it for no reason. It happened before in the past. It'll happen in the future. Just so
No,
that
but
they get out.
but again, that's an entirely different
Yeah.
take. Yes, that will be happening, but at least we will be having a quality film in our hands. Now, the thing is, what you're saying would not work if the director of a certain film, or if let's say a director is really wanting to make a film based on history. What he should do is he should either be as as
Historically authentic.
as authentic as possible. That is, he has to have base it completely off real life events and make sure the characters do not deviate from their real life personalities, and ensure that that's how realistic it is. Or he should take a few minor inspirations from it and have his own creative output from it. So
Historical
he shouldn't really.
fiction.
Yes, historical
Yeah,
fiction
historical
essentially.
fiction, yeah.
And I think we can learn quite a lot from our own past and history. And if you're really going for historical films, that's the way to go. You can take a few events, borrow a few inspirations from them, and make sure you have your own creative output from that.
I guess, but in the current political situation, I don't think that's possible because people will weaponize that to get votes. That's what's going to happen.
No, it doesn't matter.
And
As long as you get a quality film in your hands, it doesn't matter what the politics
I mean,
are.
to be fair though, I mean, the thing, the quality of movies that Bollywood's putting out, even though these good movies are few and far between, are getting better. Movies like Pink, for example, talks about a very important topic, like the way in which some women are treated horribly in India due to sexual assault and stuff like that. It talks about that in such a respectful, realistic manner that I was almost crying watching that because it's such a good movie. However, there are other really good Bollywood movies that come out as well. Like PK, for example, talks about religion. 10 years back, Three Idiots came out and talked about the Indian education system. Like so many movies come out to talk about real life Indian problems, and they do it in a really respectful manner, and they make good money. Those movies got good reviews and made good money, at least by Indian standards. So things are changing, but those kind of movies are few and far between. You know?
And it doesn't really matter if these films are just based on real life events, or like let's say Three Idiots. Three Idiots is very grounded in reality. You don't really have to have these films. People can also go towards experimental genres, like going for maybe a thriller or a supernatural thriller or a crime thriller. Anything is fine, but as long as they execute it well, it's a really good thing for the entire industry as a whole. Like, for example, you can go for recently you've seen films such as Article 15 and Andhadhun, and we all know how much impactful they were as films and how good they were. And I think these films are really, like you said, we are starting to see a change. And I think there were really two different films which had such an impact for directors to take all these creative things. The first film was Dangal, and I think had a major impact on the Indian film industry by ensuring that.
Amazing.
And it changed the whole landscape. It opened up new ideas.
It was based on a real person, right? It was based on a real, like, Olympic level wrestler, right? In India, wasn't it?
Now, this is the thing. This is the thing with Dangal, okay? They did not completely take real life events and place it. They did take a few events, but at the same time, they added a few creative liberties to them. Now, this is not a problem, because first they got the permission of the characters they were portraying in real life. Okay, so they really had that. Yeah, the family, they really had the permission from the family to take this creative liberties. And two, it's not completely historical, of where people from that part of the time no longer live anymore. So it's a fairly recent thing, and you can take this creative liberties, and that's why I think the film worked in terms of story. And it's not just the story; it's also the way the screenplay of the film engages you,
and also we have to
rate character depth.
Now we have to rate Amir Khan's amazing effort for changing the way he looks for different parts of the movie, like becoming a fit wrestler to a slightly overweight old man. Like the way he changes body is insane. The amount of effort he put into that.
Exactly, and when you have an actor as dedicated to his like that, and then when you have a writer who puts emphasis on storytelling, screenplay, and character depth, this is the package you get from a film, and this is a complete package, Dangal. And the other film, or rather franchise, which was responsible for changing the way directors look at films in India, is Bahubali. And of course, you may hate the film or you may love the film, but you can't deny that it had a big cultural impact in India. And it's not. It set its standards, exactly.
It gave a new complete standard about other movies to come up. I mean, the upcoming movies. I mean, everyone kept that as a standard, saying that everyone has to compete with that movie.
Exactly, and Bahubali is the new standards at the moment. And the reason why Bahubali worked is because it's a completely fictional tale. It has taken a few inspiration from the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, of course. But the characters essentially in the movie are demigods. So you can't really say that the fight scenes are unrealistic.
Were they gods? Were they? I thought they were normal people. Were they
demigods? Demigods. They were the closest we can actually get to demigods.
It's been a few years since I've seen the movie.
Believe it or not, Bahubali is the closest we've gotten to a superhero film, or rather a proper superhero film.
I mean, we had movies in the past, like what was it? Like I don't remember the names. We had superhero movies in the past in India, but none of them.
Oh yes, if you're talking about Krish, that film did a good job for catering to the young audience, but it wasn't mature enough for the older audience to like it as well.
I love the first part of Krish. I mean, the movie which came before Krish, what was that? I don't remember.
Koi Mil Gaya.
That was a really good movie.
I mean, we can all agree that was a rip-off of a certain Hollywood film, and I wouldn't really want to talk about that. I mean, because in the 90s and the 2000s.
I mean, at that time it was a good movie.
Yes, but you have to admit that you have to acknowledge the fact that it was obviously a rip-off of.
I mean, to be fair though, speaking of the 90s, speaking back to the 90s, many movies, Indian movies in the 90s and early 2000s, directly ripped off concepts from Hollywood movies and just Indianized it a bit. Like there's one movie, I forgot the name of the movie, and I won't even if I knew the name, I won't mention it. But there's this one movie which literally scene for scene, shot for shot, ripped off a fight scene from The Matrix, literally just.
Oh yes, of course, and I think that was the problem.
I know the movie, but I'm not going to say it.
I mean, we don't really have to talk about it because the standards of these films are not really good enough to praise them in any way, and it's just that. That's the thing. We've talked about it before. It's just that people have grown up watching these films, and only now they are starting to realize that there is quite a lot of potential. There was a lot of potential, and the Indian film industry did not use it to the maximum extent. And now these days we have let's say the South Indian industry is performing much better than Bollywood, and I think everyone can
yeah,
agree to
true.
that.
I
And
do
it's just
agree.
yeah,
The
exactly.
storytelling
And
is now, especially in like Kerala and stuff. The people from who make the
Yeah,
people like who
Malayalam
make
movies have the
yeah.
amazing plots.
and going with the Malayalam movies, you also have the Kannada film industry, which is catching up. And we all know the two giants as well, the Tollywood film industry and the Kollywood film industry,
Yes.
Telugu and Tamil movies.
There's a movie recently made 5 years ago, I think, called Kaka, which is about these two slum kids trying to get pizza. And it was a really good movie.
Oh
Like,
yes,
it's
that
just a
was a
good
national
movie.
award-winning film.
Really? Okay.
Yes, that was Kaka Mutai.
Kaka, that's it. That's it.
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's the thing. These films are really grounded in reality. They do not have over-the-top fight sequences or anything, but it's the screenplay that's so riveting that you completely have a great experience, even if
And
you
the
watch
kids-
it in
And the kids
Oh,
playing
God.
those two characters are really good actors. I'm not sure if they did
Great
anything
performance.
after that, but you know.
I'm not sure as well, but I hope we get to see more experimental films like this. And I think
Speaking of Indian movies, I want to know your guys' opinion. You know the movies that are like Western movies but set in India, so like with Dave Patel, like Lion, like Slumdog Millionaire. What do you guys think of those?
We had
movies? 'Cause
Extraction recently, I think.
yeah,
Extraction. Oh yeah.
Mhm.
What do you think of those movies? Which are set in India, which is about India, kind of. Well, it was Extraction set in India? Or was it Bangladesh? Where was it set?
I'm not quite
Extraction.
sure myself. I
Parts of
haven't
it
seen
were
that
filmed
film.
in India.
I don't remember, but Extraction.
Apparently, it's set in India.
I mean, yeah,
So
some
It's-
movies
in
which are
India.
shot in India,
It's in
like
India.
some Hollywood
In
movies which are shot in India.
Lucknow, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. But then, yeah, but some movies kind of downgrade India. I mean, showing the particular area of slum areas, which kind of,
But those exist. They exist in our country.
yeah, that kind of gave
I mean,
a
they
impression
do
to the
exist,
other
but
people
then-
saying that this is how India looks. But then
Oh,
it's
like
a-
that.
Yes.
yeah,
That's
that
the
could
point where I was
be. I mean, we have that with our own Bollywood and South Indian
Exactly.
industries
It's like
as
kind
well.
of degrading India itself.
No, but the problem that's not the issue. The issue is because most let's be honest, most people in the West don't know much about our culture, which is fine. They have their own culture to worry about, but because certain movies like Slumdog Millionaire, they're the first window that the Western audience sees into Indian culture. If they only see the really crappy parts of our country, it'll be the entire country's like that when just only some of it is, you know?
I know, I agree,
Yeah,
and I guess that shouldn't be a problem because Slumdog Millionaire did not do a bad job at degrading India to such big extents or anything. There were slums in
Then-
India, and that's what they
It
had to
was
cover.
well the storyline, so
Yes, it was pretty well done, and
Have you
I
seen-
think Hollywood can do more when it comes to shooting films in India. And,
Have you seen the
you
movie
know,
Lion? Have you seen the movie Lion?
No, but I heard it's a really good
It's
film.
a really good movie. Basically, this Indian kid, I forget his name, he gets lost. He goes on a train and gets lost because he doesn't realize the train was moving because he fell asleep. And then he goes to Mumbai or something. Then he gets put into an orphanage. He gets adopted by this Australian family. Then he grow up Australian, and as an adult, he just met some Indian people from India who went to Australia to study, and then after learning Indian culture again from
Yes,
those Indian
yes,
people, he realized that he just remembered his old past, and then he spent a couple years trying to find what's the word? Yeah, he tried to find his original family. It's a really riveting story. Dev Patel played him, the same guy who played the Slumdog Millionaire guy. He's a really good actor. Oh, and the
I agree,
Marigold
I
Hotel. The Marigold Hotel, that was a pretty good movie as well. The I forget the name of the full movie, but it was something Marigold Hotel. You have Dame Judi Dench. You have these.
yeah,
It's
the
a British.
chefs and-
Yeah. It's like you have these really good movies set in India, but it's not the most accurate portrayal of India. It's
yeah.
and
So
oh my god. So yeah, I think we're running out of things to talk about. So I guess we need to end on a high note. So someone say something nice about
Okay.
Bollywood. Say something nice.
Now, look at this. Now, and I think we are improving as a film industry, isn't it? And it's just that the South Indian film industries have been doing a good job at ensuring that the movies take some inspiration not just from Hollywood but also from a few Asian movies as well. And not just that, they also add their own ideas and take some inspirations from the previous Indian films which have been
To
really
be
good.
fair, many Western directors were inspired by Japanese directors like Akira Kurosawa, who made a movie called The Seventh Samurai, which inspired many Western cowboy
Yes,
movies, which
yes,
in turn
I agree.
So it is a back and forth. We take inspiration from one culture, they take inspiration from us, and they take inspiration from that, blah, 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 blah.
I agree. And that's the thing. The South Indian industry is doing all the right steps to ensure that the film industry proceeds forward. But Bollywood is stuck in this loop. And what they do is essentially they talk about, they do these, we have all these issues we talked about, and those still issues exist in the Indian film industries, but specifically they exist in Bollywood. And it's not really healthy for the audience watching it. And it's just that the promotional materials also make sure they focus on these issues as well. They don't really talk about how interesting a film can be or how experimental the film can go for. Rather, they talk about how good the songs are or how good the actors have performed. And I think we need to go more than that. And I think, like I said, the South Indian industries are doing quite an excellent job at doing that. And I think we can all agree to that.
That's true. And before we finish, does anyone have any concluding points or anything? Finishing point? I'm not sure what the word is. Okay, this is the third time recording this. My language skills are going on the drain.
So, when coming to Indian film industry and in Bengal, if you guys know about art films, they also have like really good stuff. That's something we all can learn from Bengali movies also.
What do you mean?
They have like daily life things. They're called as art films. They're not commercial films. You know, commercial films
Indie
are
films.
those which
Like they have indie films
Yeah.
over there, yes.
any movie that has this fully produced music or anything like that is a commercial film, and it's like
Right.
it has promotions. But with art films in Bengal, they do it really different. I don't know how to speak those names. I can just leave a comment on the post, but some movies are really good. Like a lot of Indian film directors or producers can learn from those movies and take a new take on it. They can take it to the next level.
Well, and to be fair, at least our movies are better than some of the films I've seen from Nollywood, for example. Those films are like, what was that? Why are you running? Why are you running? Like, it's better than that at least.
I mean,
They're
that literally became a
creative though.
meme.
They're
That
really
literally
That's
became a
true.
meme. Why are
They're
you
very
running?
creative.
Why are you running?
And I just hope we have this healthy competition between all our industries rather than having all these egos and
You know
venture.
what?
Because
You
the
know
South
what would
Indian
be-
industries
you know-
have
you
this
know what would
healthy
be a really
competition.
great movie? If India gave whatever it's best at, let's say the songs being portrayed in movies, and then Hollywood ka action and let's say Asian ka plots and all that.
No, Asian action, because they do much
Sorry, yeah,
action much
Asian
better.
action. Imagine people made a movie on that. Like everyone comes as one and do it.
Okay, that's our next.
Or
that's our next-
rather we don't have to do any of that and make sure we have our own take on movies. I
Well,
think
this
that's what is needed. We need to have new ideas, and I guess
Right.
everyone can agree to
Yeah,
that.
I guess so.
this can go on forever, but unfortunately, we haven't got the patience to talk forever. So let's see, Yassine, do the promotional stuff. Go.
Okay. You really do be putting me on the spot. Okay. Be sure to do 5 stars on Apple Podcast.
What?
Yeah, you have an option to rate our podcast in iTunes and Apple Music. Apple Podcast actually. So you can put 5 stars on there. You can subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. We're basically on everything, so follow us on that.
So you
At Hydra
basically
Deconstructed.
you can't miss us.
45.
Yeah, we're on every podcasting platform ever, basically.
Except for old school, like, I don't know, like 35-bit websites or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you
We're
would
coming
like to
for
be
that
featured
too,
in this,
soon.
if you would like to be featured in let's say next podcast, please do follow us on Twitter and just tell us what you guys want to be featured in and all.
There's a very small possibility we might say yes. So take that chance.
And that's it for today, guys. And we hope to see you in the next episode. So see you
Yes.
all. Bye bye.
J-Ho.
Bye-bye.